Wembanyama looked great. I mean, very athletic. He can threes. Holmgren actually did very well also. I think he might have outscored the Wemby man in this game. But every time I saw a highlight, he was getting knocked out. He looked like Jerry Quarry. I think Tommy Hearns had a better chin than this guy, right? And the unfortunate thing for the hitman was if you blew on his chin, he went down. Literally, did you see any of these highlights? Because Holmgren, every play, he was knocked on his ass. Although he performed very well, and he shrugged it off. It reminded me of like Ryan Tannehill when I saw him get just clobbered in his rookie season with the Miami Dolphins. A guy gets annihilated in a preseason game, just taken out with a vicious Marvin Jones on Gina Toretta type of hit. I'm looking to see, what this guy's reaction is going to be. They show him on the bench, and he's laughing.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I mean, this guy can live with a concussed head. He's very much like Troy Aikman. But they should just, hit Dolphin quarterbacks over the head with a sledgehammer as their initiation at their rookie introductory press conference. Just say, okay, now it's time to get a little bit of a feel for what it's going to be like to be back there.
Just set them up for what's
Boom, right in the head.
You can handle this. You can handle being a dog.
A surprise shot to the temple out of nowhere. And if they're still, talking at the press conference after that, then, that's my quarterback.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you. Peel yourself off the mat Monday here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, along with one Mike Lubie Lubitz. And an awful lot to encompass here in a short period of time as John Congemi will join us with his Pigskin Playbook. John, once again, looking absolutely magnificent as he was down there in the field. How does he do it? My wife, the Mustang, who's met John Congemi several times, even is watching TV and says, "Who's that guy?"
I finally caught it yesterday. I'm like, wow, he looks great.
Fucking guy looks great. Holy shit. I mean, not that he, looks bad on this show. He puts us to shame. And you're a young man, Lubie, but wow.
Mike and Jimmy.
John, he's got to be what? I don't even want to venture a guess on his age because he's in total defiance of that from a physical appearance standpoint, is he not?
Yeah, for sure.
And great analysis as always. Although, at the beginning of that game, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Lubie. We used to root for this at the Peerless Theater when I was a kid in Brooklyn. And, you would go to see a movie like The Three Musketeers or something, or, some common movie that, everybody would, yeah, it's a good movie. And accidentally, or maybe even deliberately by, paid inducement, the guy who was running the camera, running the projector, would slip in like Sweat Hog Sluts, and that would play for like 15 minutes before the theater manager caught on. Immediately fired the guy on the spot, but nonetheless, it was much to the delight of the people in the crowd that were either in on the joke or just completely taken by surprise. And that's what it looked like yesterday with the Dolphin game, didn't it? Looked like somebody had just slipped into the projector. Watch this. These little kids will love this. A copy of Sweat Hog Sluts. Because it was 14-0 before you could blink an eye. The Dolphins had a couple of 3-and-outs. And Carolina with Bryce Young all of a sudden looked like an efficient, well-oiled offensive machine. You were getting the shots of Vic Fangio in the booth, and you were starting to wonder, maybe, Vic, I don't want to suggest this, but as the game passed you by. Either that or our defense just isn't very good. But it was funny. You know what? One of my favorite scenes, of course, in one of my favorite movies, which I've seen 1,000 times, Cinderella Man. The story about James J. Braddock, and he fights Max Baer. Baer has already killed more than one guy in the ring. I guess it was one, but they kept showing it over and over. They kept showing the film to Braddock, saying, "You really want to fight this guy?" So Baer is fooling around. He's got chicks kissing him in between rounds. He's making out with various model types. It goes 2-3 rounds. He's just kind of holding Braddock off, played by Russell Crowe, and then Giamatti looks over into the corner. Paul Giamatti, who's the trainer for Cinderella Man here, James J. Braddock, and he sees this look. All of a sudden, a vital transformation take place on the face of the actor who's playing Max Baer. And all of a sudden, it looks like he means business. And you had a little bit of that scene, Lubie. Did you catch that when Tua's sitting down? He's got the cap on, and he's on the sidelines, 2-3 and outs. It's 14-0, and they kind of like are sharing a laugh. Him and whatever assistant
Yeah,
coach.
he was like chilling. It was like, what's
Yeah,
going on? What are they doing?
like it was Nadal toying with some qualifier after being down 2-0, in the first set. And sure enough, I mean, it came out there with that same look, and immediately I went to work, and that was it. That lead quickly dissipated, and you could see it was going to be the Dolphins' day, and they win it going away, 42-21
Yes.
over Carolina. So now 5-1, and guess what? They were popping the champagne corks all over town with the ex-Dolphins, former Dolphins that played for the 72 team. And once again, their legacy is preserved. There are no more. Somebody's O had to go, but you didn't think it was going to be both San Francisco and Philadelphia in matchups against Cleveland with a backup quarterback in the case
Yep.
of San Francisco.
Yep.
And then the New York Jets, Jets, Jets. Did we suggest that Mark Lawrence should be Baker acted? Did he not give us the New York parlay?
They give you, let me.
I'm not sure if he gave us the Jets. I know he gave us the Giants under the theory, and he had a stat to back it up to quantify this thing, where teams coming back from a London game, I don't know, there might have been other qualifiers, other conditions. Teams coming back from a London game, in general, I guess, don't do very well the subsequent week. I don't know if he qualified that with when favored by more than 2 touchdowns or whatever. But
He lost Seattle. He had the Giants and he had Seattle. That was
okay.
He also had your series, which again I laughed.
Oh, he had Syracuse. Yeah,
no, VT gave him it, but VT really didn't. Like FSU played like garbage against VT, and the line was 22 and a hook, and FSU won by 22. So it's not like he won going away with VT, but he was getting on that FSU yardage bullshit. It was 2 games. It was BC. The fucking fourth quarter, and
so you were actually offended by his selection.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't like it at all. I love Lawrence, but I was gonna tell him, like, dude, that's not gonna happen this week. Like FSU's going, and
I think no matter what numbers you have, can you go? I mean, the bookies are going straight by the numbers, Lubie. But can you really not just factor in the idea that Syracuse does this the last several seasons under Dino Babers? They start out like 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, and then they come right back to reality, and they suck. I mean, I was looking for Paul Free Pasqualoni on the sidelines there with the Qs. But, yeah, you seem to have been that kind of irritated you that he was willing to take. It turned out to be 18 and a hookeroni, which was not nearly enough if you had the Syracuse Orange, a pathetic performance against FSU, who happened to look great in the process.
I mean, they struggled early. They still have an issue, and the Dolphins sort of have this issue of scoring in the red zone. Like, I don't like Norvell gets really cute and really stupid and wastes downs.
Yeah.
Which bothered me. But again, you win 41-3. What can you really say over an ACC opponent who wasn't defeated at one point less than a month ago? So look, they still have stuff to work out. Look, all the teams. Georgia was 30-20 with like 7 minutes left versus Vandy. Like
everybody went to anoint Alabama as. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to walk all over you there, Lubie. What were you saying?
I was saying Alabama. Look, Alabama had a definitive lead over Arkansas, who sucks this year, and almost lost.
Yes, won by 3. Yeah, and the rankings, still pretty much the same. You had Washington, who beat Oregon in a very entertaining ball game all the way around, and they moved into the top 5 now in the polls. So you had a little bit of a shakeup. Somehow USC is still ahead of Notre Dame. I guess Notre Dame has 2 losses?
Yeah.
At the deal. Because USC looked horrible in that game, and you would have to think that Caleb Williams, did he cough up the Heisman Trophy with one bad performance? That was a particularly bad performance.
That was bad.
And the week before, right, weren't they? They were in trouble against Arizona, who turns out to maybe not be as bad as people think.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, they lost to Arizona, but Arizona's made some representative showings. Did they win this week, Arizona?
They beat out of Washington State. They not only won, they beat the crap out of Washington State. Washington State's good.
It's funny how, you tag a team with a label that they suck, and, you completely discount the idea that they can get better during the course of the season, which was always a theory that was bannered about in college football, right? The biggest improvement you'll see is between week 1 and week 2. But we've also seen, unfortunately, with this legacy and the legion of coaches that we've had at the University of Miami, teams just go into complete decline as the season worked its way through. What a bunch of schleps, huh? Larry Coker, Alec Golden, Randy Shannon, Mark Richt came in with some respectability and left, without as much of his dignity as he had when he came in. Manny Diaz, that was a huge mistake. And now Mario Cristobal. who I didn't think the Canes would recover from that blunder. A lot of people thought, oh, yeah, they're just going to shake it off. There was somebody, was it Desmond Howard, said, yeah, I spent like 5 days of practice this week. They've just forgotten about it. They don't blame Mario at all.
Well, that's dumb. Then they're stupid. Something's wrong with them. Look, they came out looking good early. They had a lead, but it's like many of us were waiting for. Carolina had an onslaught.
Collapse, yeah.
21.
All right. Well, it was an interesting day all the way around. Let's get right to it because he has to make his exit about 9 o'clock. So we want to get to the. There he is, man.
There he is.
What's up, guys?
On, John. I mean, you're killing us, man. You're killing us.
I got the tanning bed light going again. Everything's great.
It's not even that. I mean, it was yesterday's appearance on CBS post-game show. I happened to come home from the walk of life there. You're already up on the tube. I was assuming the Dolphins were going to run away with this game once they got things rolling. Taped the second half. No need to watch it. Saw the highlights. It was pretty much what you might have anticipated from the start. Although, has that ever happened to you? That was one of the things I remember when I was a kid in Brooklyn. There'd be a guy, usually one of the wise guys, would go up in the projection room and switch out like some cartoon that we were supposed to be watching and put in Sweat Hog Sluts. And that would play for like a few minutes before the theater manager came in there and like strangled the kid and threw us all out of the theater. And it looked that way, like somebody slipped in the wrong movie at the beginning of that Dolphin game.
Yeah, it was weird. The Dolphins kind of started 3 and out, and everybody didn't know what to do on offense, right? It was like, and then there was another one, and that bizarre play on third and whatever it was, the lateral that almost turns into a scoop and score for Carolina. It was kind of unnecessary, but you figured is it the cat playing with the ball of twine and just messing around? It felt like that a little bit in the beginning of the game, but when you go down 14 points in the NFL, sometimes you don't recover from it. But this team seems to be immune to a lot of that stuff because they score with such ease. Yeah. And then the chunk yardage plays just come alive. And it was only a matter of time until that Carolina offensive line imploded and, you started getting pressure on a young quarterback that it hasn't, struggled individually, but the whole team has struggled to move the football. So I was impressed with Young against the Dolphins defense for a while there. He threw the ball away when he had to, didn't worry about, burning plays because he had a lead and he was doing the right things. But, it's only so many plays you can hold down Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Tua and the running attack of Mostert and, pick your back of the week next week. He'll probably have a, 150-yard game as well. So the Dolphins caught some wind there late in the first half and then started to put it on cruise control in the second half.
Yeah, I was going to say, too, I mean, when I came home, there you were on the tube, standing there with Cunho, and my wife says, wow, who's that guy on the left, man? He's really handsome, and she's met you many times. I said, that's fucking Congemi, man.
It's actually, like, it was on TV. I had family over, and my dad was watching it, and I'm like, is that Congemi? Like,
I don't know what you're doing, man. It's great, though.
It's fucking great.
Hey, you know what?
You would baffle a guess your age type of guy. You could go to any carnival and just go away.
I've got 3 people that look exactly like me that I have go around town.
Oh, man. I tell you what. No, it's good. It was nice to see. And, it's always good, to be out there on the home field after a victory like that. Okay, so things changed a little bit, though, overall in the National Football League yesterday. Perception was that, and we probably were right on this bandwagon, San Francisco, clearly the best team in the league. All of a sudden, McCaffrey injured. He's been injured in the past. I don't know the severity of it. I didn't see any further reports on it. Debo also got banged up in that game. Philadelphia was in the game in the loss against the Jets without their top 2 cornerbacks, and also Jalen Carter was out of that ball game. So that may have impacted them. But their offense is not nearly as swift as it was last year. They don't seem to be dominating on the offensive side like they did in some of their games last year, or most of them for that matter.
Well, I think the Jets had a lot to do with that in terms of their defense has been playing spectacular.
And that's
other
without
than
Sauce Gardner, right?
it's with minus a couple of guys in the secondary. You got to give credit to their defense because they've kept them in most games, other than the Cowboy game that got away from them in Dallas. They've faced some tough quarterbacks. They've faced some tough teams, and I can't believe they're 500.
Yeah.
With all the situation that happened in week 1 with Aaron Rodgers going out after, a handful of plays. So give that side of the football credit, give their offense credit, and Zach Wilson, because he hasn't lost a lot of games. He hasn't looked all that bad. And then San Francisco, I didn't think they'd go into
a
Cleveland
backup quarterback with the Browns
and drop that. Yeah, exactly. And drop that game. Now, I didn't see hardly any of that game, but just kind of reading about it, I think San Francisco and Philadelphia, there are two teams that can get extremely hot, and there are two teams that can also not look like they're going to threaten to score 20 points.
Yeah.
You're going to be in a slugfest kind of thing, where there's been one team consistently this year. And even though they lost at Buffalo, the Dolphins seem to score with ease. The way you watch the highlights for the Dolphins, I don't see many highlights around the National Football League. You might see one or two plays, but you don't see multiple plays that way. I mean, they're just 57 yards, 47 yards, 22 yards with consistency. And it looks so easy because guys are wide open. So if the Dolphins can stay on this track, they've got a leg up on the Bills in terms of they get them at Hard Rock Stadium at the end. And if they can just continue to throw punches, through the Philly KC 4-week slog here, where they go on the road on Sunday night to Philly, they get the sacrificial lamb coming in Bill Belichick next Sunday, Hard Rock Stadium. They travel to Germany, and then they had to play Kansas City, and then they have a bye week. After that bye week, Jalen Ramsey should be ready to go.
Yes, he's supposed to.
It sounds like he's going to be practicing, hopefully, maybe this week or next.
Wow.
So that's going to solidify a little. Even with X going out with a groin injury, at least you've got Kader Kohu, who's played inside and outside. You got Eli Apple as your extra guy now. That's going to really give them depth going down the stretch of the National Football League schedule to when they get to game, 10, 11, 12, 13, they may be healthier than they are right now.
Well, it might fear, and what I was saying before their 5 straight touchdowns, was this is my only issue with this team is it's boom or bust. Like, they're great at the highlight reel play, the big play, but you don't see them all too often marching down the field, having drives, whether it's McDaniel or Tua. It feels like it's what Matt Mahomes' issue was supposedly 2-3 years ago, and it's why the Bengals won that playoff game, because they forced him to just take what was there instead of going down the field to all his weapons. And then last year he corrected that, and they went and won a Super Bowl. And that is my issue with the Dolphins is, versus some of these shitty teams, for lack of a better word, you can get all these big chunk plays. But when you're playing a Niners, when you're playing an Eagles who have really good defense up front and on the back end, can you count on that to win in these better games, let alone playoff games? That's my big question for them.
That's a valid point. I think Mike Cunio, I'm sitting next to him during the game, and he mentioned to me that was the 11th drive that or 11th or 12th drive. I'm trying to draw the number out. It's something like that.
Yeah.
That the Dolphins have scored a touchdown in 3 plays or less.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm like, wow, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder how many of those. I don't think there are any against the Bills, and I'm trying to think of some of the other quality teams that they're going to have to play. Now, get wins while you can, get explosive plays while you can, but at some point you're going to have to grind it out and play all right, 4 or 5 plays, got to punt the football away, play field position, play turnovers. You're going to get into a game like that when the weather turns. If you're on the road somewhere, you're not going to have those explosives out there, but take them while you can, because it's actually fun to watch. And I haven't heard Hard Rock Stadium as loud as it's been for the last couple of home games. The fans are getting into it. The fans are digging it, right? You got Tyreek Hill grabbing a phone. He's doing backflips. He's jumping into the stands, giving footballs to his mom. There's a lot of excitement around it, and it's deservedly so, because this team is providing. This team looks like, the Greatest Show on Turf did for the Rams so many years ago, and they're creating that atmosphere. I just hope that when they get down to it, that they're going to be able to win ugly.
Yes.
At some point, you're going to have to win ugly.
Looks to me like they're capable of, doing that just as easily as they've been running away with these spectacular plays. What I like, you're watching Tua, and I don't know that I've made my final decision. Tua obviously is a good quarterback. It's not like he's incapable. He's better this year than he has been in his previous years, and he started out red hot last year. Gets rid of the ball very quickly. Seems to really understand where he's going with it. And it looks like he's called a couple of, I don't know if those were audibles, but when he sees Tyreek Hill on the outside with possible one-on-one coverage, he doesn't hesitate to call for his fly pattern, which is my favorite play. Never mind grinding it out. I'm not with you guys. What do you want? Leather helmets now, too? Like you two guys?
No.
We finally got to have an exciting, electrifying team. I want to see the ball flying down the field, Johnny.
And you're seeing it. You're definitely seeing it. Tyreek Hill, before the season, he 2,000 yards. I didn't quite get my arms around it. I'm going, maybe Jalen Waddle is going to have a breakout year because Tyreek Hill is going to have so much attention towards him in terms of coverage and double coverage. But every time he gets that matchup, he just uses his speed and blows by the corner. Tua throws it as high and as far as he can, and Tyreek just kind of runs under it for an easy touchdown. Yeah. And it looks like they're playing 7-on-7 or, down the street, go to the Cadillac, take off, and, you're gone. And it looks fun to watch. It must be fun to execute because, afterwards you see the guys celebrating, and they did another team celebration in the end zone.
It was a good one. Well choreographed.
That was a good one. So
I don't know that they could top that shuffle dance that they were doing.
No, that was pretty good.
That was one of my favorites ever. Yeah. You had the Icky shuffle going. But it was with like a dozen guys. It was, sort of combining a lot of elements from previous touchdown celebrations. They were talking, I guess somebody was asking about it, and this probably was posed a few times, but Mostert was talking about it after the game. He was saying that, that's part of the things they've incorporated into practice, and that's a good sign. And you know what? We've talked to Raheem Mostert because he's Brett Tessler's client, and he was enough to get him on our show, a little local exclusive when the MVP in the NFC Championship game came on our show. And, the guy just seemed like a quiet, humble, matter of fact, almost like a happier version of Kawhi Leonard in his interviews where, the guy wasn't saying much, but he seems genuinely like euphoric about being on this team. So, this is cliche city here, John, but team chemistry with this group, as indicated, with some of these touchdown dances, and not like other teams don't do it, but they really do seem to be like kind of a selfless bunch that is out there having a really good time playing football, which is what you would hope to see. I don't know that you can do it in any better fashion than to, be out there and actually enjoying yourself as you're playing instead of feeling this immense pressure.
Yeah, when you're winning, it's really easy to do that, and it's unbelievable. And hopefully, this team doesn't have to face too much adversity to challenge that issue, because I think that is genuine. I don't think it's made up. I think this team really likes to be around each other. They like to be around practice. They like to compete against each other to make each other better. And to your point about Raheem Mostert, spent a lot of time with Raheem in terms of getting to know him, playing golf, seeing him at the golf course.
Is he a good golfer?
Yeah, I don't know, because I was in another group. We were, kind of eight people, and he was in one group and I was in the other, but we got to hang out after. And he had a charity event last week at a bowling alley for a bunch of kids, and he seems just genuine. He's just a good person, and he works hard, and it's showing on the field because he's been one of the most explosive running backs in the National Football League this year, and he can do everything. So he's kind of like your bell cow. A Chan, and if Jeff Wilson gets an opportunity, or Ahmed or Brooks, it's kind of interchangeable. But the one constant has been Mostert, and I think the Dolphins need him to stay healthy.
It's a really interesting story, which Lubie and I have been, fortunate to follow because this kind of stuff I love about sports, and I would imagine a lot of people do too. Where I mean, you talk about down and out. I mean, the guy got cut 7 times. At some point, you're thinking Tessler might have said to him, and Tessler's been with him from the start. So that's it's probably not an easy position to be in, where your client keeps saying, "Hey, what the fuck, man?" I mean, how many times can this happen to me? And you're almost tempted to hand him a copy of the classifieds, but and then he's had devastating injuries also.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
stuff that would really impair. We've seen how many times where running backs are not the same after injuries, no matter how talented they were before, and no matter how efficient and great the medical science is now with orthopedics, and we see guys coming back from all kinds of stuff. In fact, didn't it look like Aaron Rodgers was going to take a couple of snaps last night?
Yeah, he's standing up on the sidelines, no crutches, throwing the football.
Throwing a
pre-game.
football, yeah. I mean, thinking, this is kind of like when they had that secret phone video of Peyton Manning was supposedly throwing a football at some high school in the bayou, and nobody could really make it out. You didn't know if it was like a
Right.
Bigfoot sighting or it was Peyton Manning. And everybody got all excited, that he was coming back, which he eventually did. I guess,
Right.
supposedly, I mean, the word constantly has been surfacing that Rodgers may, return if the Jets were a postseason factor, which is still hard to imagine they would be. But nonetheless, that's a pretty remarkable recovery. But yeah, Mostert's come back from like devastating injuries and appears to be better than he ever was. I mean,
The best thing, Defo, about Mostert this year is he looks. It's hard to look faster when you're really fast, but he looks stronger, and he's getting so many yards after first contact that he probably hadn't had a lot in his career. And I think it's due to his off season. He really came into this season jacked up and ready to go. And he's a hard tackle in the open field because not only is he quick, he's fast, and he gets to top speed in a couple of strides. And he's a one-cut runner. So once he makes that cut, he's downhill. Man, you better take a good angle on him and get a good piece of him, because if not, he's probably going to break that arm tackle or break that initial first contact and continue at top end speed.
Yeah.
On that big run he had yesterday, he hit the hole, and he got hit probably 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, but spun out of it. Then all of a sudden regained his balance, and he was at top end speed within 2 or 3 strides, and they barely caught him inside the 5-yard line. But that was 40 yards ago, right? He was gone. So
he had that Tommy Fox acceleration that you used to anticipate. You would just put it up, throw it as far as you could, knowing that Fox was going to accelerate right under it, and make the catch as he blew by a defensive back at the last second. No, it was great. All right, John Congemi with us. It's the Pigskin Playbook. The Dolphins looking real good. They also find themselves landing their 2.5-point dogs on the road to Philadelphia in the opening line. Philadelphia not looking that great. They lose to the Jets yesterday after being up 14-3. They don't score again in the game, and maybe I don't know how long these injuries are going to be impeding the defensive backs, but that would certainly be a concern if you were playing Tua, and you would definitely want Jalen Carter in there if you were Philadelphia. So they may just have caught the Eagles at the perfect time, which is why it's so difficult, John, before the season to go, well, that's a win, that's a loss, that's a loss, that's a win.
Yeah.
Because the circumstances couldn't be more favorable for taking on this road game.
Well, how many teams do you think yesterday, guys, that had you're in one of those
survivor pool,
survivor pools, right? So
San Fran,
the Giants and the Bills had to be a huge one, right? The Rams and Arizona, you squeak one out if you got the Rams over Arizona, and then that game against the Eagles. I mean,
Jets. Are you kidding me with that?
Yeah. Who you picking,
right?
The
Jets beating Philly straight up. That would have been a much more likely proposition than the Cleveland Browns with a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't even like him with Deshaun Watson quarterback, and he hasn't really done anything to distinguish himself, since he's come back. In fact, that's starting to look like that could be our new example about what's more overrated, Deshaun Watson or the Stone Crab, instead of Bryce Harper, since Harper finds himself as a key catalyst of all the success Philly's enjoying in these last couple of postseason. So, all right. So elsewhere around the league, I saw one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And it comes back to, and I forget who I was talking to about this. Oh yeah, I was reading a little comment by a friend of ours named Joe Casale, who follows the NFL very closely and has been around the league as a sports agent in different capacities. And he was talking about how he was sitting with an official on a plane ride one day, and he got to talking to the guy, and they were sort of leveling with each other about what's really going on. And the official said that coaches, he's amazed how poor coaches are in terms of clock management and end game management, and that they're petrified to actually have to execute whatever strategy comes about, and that was like the coach's biggest fear. This was the opinion of this official who's down there on the field and gets a feel for this. And I see Brian Daboll, how this happened. I mean, did you at the end of the half? You have 13 seconds to go.
Yeah,
you're like on a second and goal or whatever from the one. But the one thing you can't have happen is the guy gets stopped before he goes into the end zone on a running play. You just, or even a pass for that matter. The play has to go into the end zone, and at the worst, you're walking away with 3 points at the end of this. But wow, I mean, he runs the ball and gets stuffed and never gets another playoff. Well, and you saw him go over to Tyrod Taylor.
What the hell's going on? Yeah. And he did the same thing. Dable did the same thing to his offensive coordinator, whoever, or the quarterback coach, or whoever was on the sidelines with the headset that's talking.
Oh yeah, he almost hit him with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right, because I'm watching the game last night a little bit, and I see that whole thing go on, and you notice that Taylor kills the first play, cans the first play, right?
Right.
But I'm thinking, okay, there's 2 passes called.
Pass plays, yeah.
Okay,
you have to
not
pass the ball,
run or pass.
Yeah.
Or not, never 2 run plays called in that situation, because the last thing you want to do is what happened. You get stuffed, and you have no time to spike it, or no time to run a kicking team on to kick the field goal. So, yeah, that was – I don't know how 2 plays, a pass play or 2 pass plays weren't called at the line of scrimmage. And it's okay if you pick one or the other, but the ball's got to go in the air, in the end zone, and resulting in a chance at 3 points. That's the end result.
Yeah.
End of story, right?
I don't know how you could possibly. I mean, clearly it didn't seem like this was something that Daboll had planned. And
no.
The announcers were saying he might have had an option.
Yeah,
but
aren't the head coach on?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, the head coach is listening to offense and defense. All he has to do is hit a button, and you're hearing everything. So he's whoa, wait a minute. Let's throw the fade. I don't care. Just throw it up in the air. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, the only way anybody should be taken off is if all of a sudden the Red Sea parted and Taylor could have waltzed into the end zone.
Right.
That would have been it. But I mean, to come away with nothing there. I mean, it gave rise to hope for those that had Buffalo laying 15. Because if they were down 13-zip, I mean, now you're trailing by 28 against a team that just got shut out in the first half. What was that all about? Mark Lawrence, one of our handicappers on Degenerate Friday, was talking about how teams have a very poor record, not just going to London, but coming back from London. And I'm not sure how many qualifiers he had, like whether it was in home games when they were favored by more than the double digits or whatever under a full moon. But nonetheless, he had a stat on it that they have a really lousy record in this spot, like 1-6, coming back from London in certain situations. But I mean, were they flat or just? I mean, we fell in love with Buffalo just a couple of weeks ago when they beat the Dolphins and said, "Whoa, there you go, 3-1." You see, that first game was a fluke.
Buffalo seems to be playing to the level of their competition lately, and I don't know if they're flat, if it's what they're doing offensively. Just think about Ken Dorsey calling plays for Josh Allen over the last couple of years, and you go, they're unstoppable. You almost feel like they've been the way the Dolphins have looked this year. Josh Allen's going to beat you with his legs. He's going to beat you with his strong arm. He's got a rushing attack. They've got a defense that's outstanding. A lot of those things have been really hit or miss this year for Buffalo. And it gives you, I think for a Dolphin fan, it gives you confidence that you're going to get them at the end of the year down here. All you need to do is kind of not tread water, but beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And if you slip up against somebody, it's going to be okay because you still have that game in hand. And it looks like you're right now the hardest team to stop in the National Football League, in terms of points, in terms of, yards per catch, in terms of rushing yards, per rush. Every offensive stat you can imagine, the Dolphins are on top of it.
Dolphins have two guys, and again, we've talked with you about getting a running back. They need a running back. Where's the running back? Dolphins have two guys rated in the top 8 in yards. Two guys almost halfway through the year in the top 8.
And Mostert's got 11 or 12 touchdowns already.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 800 yards, and we're only 6 games in.
Yeah.
Who has the record for touchdowns in a season? It had to be some guy that just one of those guys that used to come into the game and like Pete Johnson and just get the. He would have 11 carries for 9 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Exactly.
Remember, I mean, there were a couple of guys in that category. I guess they used the fridge in that capacity, as part of a comedy act that caught on and had the country going crazy. All right, so we had the 2 undefeated teams go down. We had the Buffalo Bills, just barely eke out a victory. And by the way, that pass was Congemi-esque that Allen threw for the touchdown, this go-ahead touchdown.
I missed it, Defo.
Oh, my God. I mean, you would make this throw only if you were like Stevie Wonder. Just blindly throws a bullet through the middle. And it's so amazing how some of these balls get through and actually end up being successful plays. The margin, for success and failure is just so thin in the NFL now. It's actually incredible to watch because even on virtually every deep bomb, except the occasional one over the top to Tyreek Hill, usually seeing a guy like right there in a wrestling match with the receiver, and then these quarterbacks are dropping them right in there also, which is pretty incredible. I mean, the level of play seems to be at a very high point, even though a lot of people like to denigrate the NFL and say, oh well, every year it's more and more crap, but. Very exciting stuff, and it's nice to have the electrifying team here in town. All right, we're going to come back. We'll talk some college football with John Congemi, the Pigskin Playbook, continuing here on a Defo show. Mike Lubie's a very happy man. I bailed out on the head-to-head bet, his alma mater, Florida State, and mine making a very poor representation of late. Although you cursed him, Johnny. You did. You on the show, you said, well, Syracuse looking good.
Undefeated. I think when I was talking about them, I know.
Talk about survivor pools, man. I'm not as emotionally attached. I mean, it was 50 years ago, right? I'm not as emotionally attached because the program hasn't really been, anything special. They had a couple of brief moments there, right, with Paul Free Pasqualoni. And they had some success after that, right? I forget who the coach was, but they were like looking like they were going to make some inroads into, sustaining some level of decent play. But it seems like this Dino Babers every year gets out to a quick start. I don't know. I mean, at least the last few, and then everything caves in, and they become so horrendous that it would have been impossible for me to watch that game if I still had an emotional attachment to the Cuse.
I want to watch it.
Lubie was loving it, man. Thank you for not texting me throughout the ball game. Your team looks like shit.
What are you going to do?
But FSU looking pretty good. All right, we'll come back. We'll talk some college football with John Congemi, but we want to talk about Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill.
Yes.
Speaking of a place that
have you got to Mayo yet? Have you got to a confirmation?
He's ready to go. Yeah,
he's ready to go.
Yeah,
I know Larry was out of town last week, so that's what Tommy's big holdup was. So hopefully, in the next few weeks, we can get down to that.
Okay, good.
We can't let this go another year, John, before we get down there.
You know what? From what I've heard, Jimmy Johnson's is a great place to be, right? No, it is. I mean,
you spent a lot of time down there, though, with your brother running.
Yes, I
show.
have, and it's fun on Sundays, obviously, right? But any day of the week to kind of go down there and just relax. And if you want great food, you're going to get it there. If you want to go to the tiki bar and take a drink and walk around and look at the Bayside views in Key Largo, you're going to do it there. If you want to go to the sports bar and on a Saturday and watch college football, or a Saturday night or a Sunday afternoon for the NFL, you've got, 28 TVs to choose from. So it's just a great spot to go relax, to go have food, to go entertain, and you're going to get first class service, and it's just a fun atmosphere. You got live music on the weekends. You've got that stadium atmosphere for Monday Night Football. So it's and the Raiders won this week, so everybody's happy down at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill.
Did a late safety
Yes.
that the Raiders got?
The Patriots, yes.
How did that happen? Because
I don't know, but I love it.
Another loss for me in my bookmaking venture, where my friend is 6-0 so far this week in NFL games. You know, as weird as the results were, it was easy pickings because you know, I even put in a small 14 parlay, which was accomplished by that safety, as the Raiders managed to cover what was a 3-point spread that they were having to cover, and they win by 4. But it seemed like the results, you know, were fairly common outside of those two astonishing upsets.
The two undefeated teams.
Yeah. Pretty interesting. All right, we'll get into some college football with John Congemi. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, just a great place. You know what? When you can envision a place like, even though it was like almost 2 years ago that we were down there, and I can still envision like any number of scenes and scenarios that unfolded in the weekend that we were there. You know, just a wonderful time. I mean, one of those things that leaves you with an indelibly good impression about taking a little junket down to the Keys there. All right, coming back with more here. John Congemi's Pigskin Playbook on the Defo Show in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:43.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
We welcome to the show John Congemi, who joins us for Dateline Dolphins. John, how are you, my friend?
Defo, I'm doing well, and that's not the only thing that's going to reach a new height. I'll be at about 220, 225 after this football season if we visit too much. Because the food's outstanding down at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. John Congemi's Pigskin Playbook. I was just looking up. I was blanking on the name of Milt Plum, who was a famous Cleveland Browns quarterback. There hasn't been that illustrious of a list, if I remember Plum as a stiff.
Oh, sorry, I guess I had a
Guy was a stiff. No, he was good. He might have been Hall of Fame worthy. But who was number 10? I mean, to show you how bleak it's been in terms of quarterbacking in Cleveland, the number 10 guy all time, you have Tim Couch makes number 8. He was horrible,
Jesus.
wasn't he?
Yes, you're back.
And Mike Phipps is the 10th.
Mike Phipps.
Oh, Jesus.
I remember
Mike Phipps.
Mike Phipps.
Was he with you in, Saskatchewan? I mean,
no, I remember Mike Phipps. He went to Purdue, I believe.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Yeah, I sort of remember the guy. I don't remember what his play was like, but top 10 all time? I mean, I guess, it's hard to go 10 deep in really good quarterbacks.
It's tough to go 10 deep. Go 10 deep with the Dolphins. And
yeah,
see
you
who
can't
come
really.
up with.
Well, because we had Danny Boy there for like 20 years, so that
right.
was much of their history, which was great, and the Greasy before that. But we've had more than our share of stiffs. That's why this whole thing with Tua is a welcome sight. All right, did you get a chance to catch much college football? I thought, and we actually had a couple of winning bets that we gave out to our loyal followers here who would have been reluctant to unload on anything we suggested except to go the opposite way. But I thought immediately that North Carolina was going to beat the Hurricanes by more than 3.5.
Yeah.
And as we said earlier, I mean, they kind of played well. What's your feeling? I mean, that kind of devastating, you rarely see that where it's so clear cut that the coach lost a game for you. And I don't know. I mean, young guys of today, how distant are they from relating to, the idea that, okay, whatever mistakes the coach made, they're to be forgotten quickly because, this guy's in charge, or are they more likely to just, almost be laughing about it? I mean,
No, I don't think they're laughing about it.
Yeah.
I think that these guys are no longer just playing for a scholarship, and everybody's getting paid now, it seems like. So I would treat them more like professionals than amateurs, than college amateur football players. They're not. And I think it lingered. I think that whole scenario lingered for the Miami Hurricanes. Now, saying that, I thought the Canes had a chance to win the game. I mean, they fumbled going into the end zone. They, had another turnover in the red zone going down there. And May looked like crap early in the game for North Carolina. I mean, it almost looked like the Miami Hurricanes defense, the front seven, was affecting his presence that he normally has in the pocket. They were affecting the timing. They were affecting his eyes and his feet.
Yes.
Nothing looked in sync. Nothing looked easy for him. And it looked like he was going to start to see ghost, and turn the football over a couple of times. And it almost happened. Oh, and by the way, now that I'm thinking about it, number 20 again on the Canes got a personal foul. Remember, I tell every game that I watch, he's going to get one personal foul. He did it again. Anyway, That's just my personal aside for him.
I mean, I didn't catch the end of the game. I saw it at North Carolina. It looked like they were going to, win the game ultimately. But first half it was sort of impressive. Yeah,
they looked fine. I really felt like they were going to bounce back. But the thing I thought was odd in the beginning of the game, when I think it was Molly McGrath, she was the sideline reporter, goes up to Mario and asks him about the whole scenario. And I don't know what was said, obviously, behind closed doors. I'm sure he took full responsibility. But it almost sounded like he was like, well, the coaching staff and the team and the whole organization and everybody accepts responsibility. And I'm going,
why?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, why?
That's one time you just have to say, I blew it. I mean,
just bite the bullet. You screwed up. Just it was me. I'm gonna take the sword on it. We've gotten over it. I dealt with it with the team. I told them it was me, and we're moving on. And now we're going to try to collectively win this game in a hostile environment, and whatever however you end it, fine.
Yeah.
But it sounded like I came away after before kickoff going, did he really take not full responsibility for that or not?
Yeah, it's almost like picturing Donald Trump throwing those towels like he was shooting baskets. All of a sudden, he's Earl of Pearl Monroe when he went down to Puerto Rico there after the hurricane. And you're thinking, what a douchebag way of approaching this. I mean, that's what I was kind of implying. I mean, I don't usually get this deeply into the psychology of all of it because, I mean, we're not mind readers. We're just guys that like to talk sports. But, young kids today, obviously different than, in terms of viewing authority. I mean, you probably weren't snapping back at George Smith and telling him to go bleep himself.
No, I don't think so.
Even if, you thought he was dead wrong.
Yeah.
But these young guys, and as you say, I mean, they're making money too. So I mean, you're a kid in college. Imagine what you would have been like in college, John. With like $1 million in your pocket.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. We would get $3 of laundry money, and from the baseball team every month, and it was enough to go out and have a party. I mean,
right.
It was great. Imagine having a couple of million, in your pocket.
But hey, how crazy is college football these days when you watch the scenario of like Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
So Notre Dame loses on the last two plays a couple of weeks ago to Ohio State at home with 10 players on the field. Then they have to travel to Duke and almost get beat by a good Duke team, but find a way to win. Then they go to Louisville and absolutely get smacked. Yes. They get crushed, right?
Yeah.
Louisville turns around after, vaulting up the polls, beating Notre Dame, and they get beat by a bad Pitt team at home by like 20. I don't know
By the
how
way,
that
there,
happened.
Johnny, you and Lubie both had winners.
But I
over
don't
the
know
weekend,
how I don't know how that scenario happens. And then USC that struggles to beat what was it, Arizona last week?
Yep.
Yes.
They look like they wanted no part of the cold weather in Notre Dame. Like and Williams,
I
I
think
don't
he
know.
blew
Did
the
he have,
Heisman there. Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of USC, but
Okay.
that team didn't resemble the highlights I've been
No.
watching over the first month of the season.
No, they looked really inept in that ball game. That was somewhat surprising. You thought that they would be their usual sieve-like selves on defense, and that Hartman would put himself right back on the map. But you didn't expect Caleb Williams to blow a gasket like that. And
Yeah.
if what recourse do you have if your team is solely based on putting 50 spots up and 60 in a ball game, and you have no defense whatsoever? I mean, that was some of the worst tackling you will ever see. By USC.
Did you guys see the Colorado game? Because I thought it was 29.
You know what? I turned it off at halftime.
I stopped watching because
Yeah.
I very clearly against their whole thing. Deion annoys me. So I'm like, it's over, whatever.
And Stanford comes all the way back and beat a bad Stanford team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They had lost to Sacramento State, I believe, in their previous game, Stanford, something like that. I mean, I don't know. Sacramento State has to be pretty low on the overall college football rankings. Is that even? That's like a community college, isn't it? Sacramento State.
I don't know.
And they're beating Stanford. I mean, Elway doesn't even want to admit that he went to the school at this stage.
It's been crazy in college football. Georgia barely beats Vandy on the road. You got Alabama hanging on just to beat Arkansas, right?
Yes.
And you're saying, all right, who's the dominant team? Has Michigan played anybody in the Big Ten yet?
Zero.
I don't know, right?
They played Indiana this weekend.
So now is Penn State. Is Penn State Michigan coming up?
Penn
soon,
State,
or?
Ohio State's this week.
That's still like a month away, I think.
Penn State, Ohio State.
Yeah, that's this week.
Yeah, Penn State, Michigan. Michigan was reading a little blip on them this morning. They had like a capsulization of the top teams in the country, and Michigan's schedule has to be the softest schedule in the history of college football so far. No.
Well, yes. They got a good Indiana team coming up, and then they're going to have to play a really good Illinois team, and then they're going to have to go to Northwestern. I mean, come on. And then Rutgers rolls into town.
In week 11.
And 11. Wisconsin with that, high-powered offense, and you're going, come on.
It's unbelievable.
November 11th is when they play their first-ranked team in Penn State. Yeah. They will not play one ranked team the entire year until November 11th.
Yeah. So.
Not exactly the Marquis de Sade schedule that, is often talked about. Interesting. And Ohio State looks like it sort of found itself a little bit again, much to my displeasure, as I root for them to lose every ball game.
Every week.
Every week. I just want them to get stomped.
It's going to be fun, though, once, 4 or 5 years rolls down and you've got 20 teams in the SEC, you got 20 teams in the Big Ten, you got 20 teams in the Big 12, and they all play each other. So you're not going to have Southwest Missouri State coming into town, for the $1 million, giveaway.
It would seem unnecessary, wouldn't it? I mean, I guess these smaller programs, that would be the fear that they just fall by
the wayside.
That is
the fear. Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said for those schools, though. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have to see them under the circumstances we do, where they're coming into and be clubbed like seals by the high-powered teams in college football. But, in general, it's nice. I mean, some guy that is playing football or basketball at Union College, I mean, he's got a lifetime of, things that, will always be, good memories for him. You get a chance to play at that level.
That's a great point because a lot of teams,
I'm sounding like Tony Segreto here, aren't I? I mean, get out the violin, man. It's all about the kids.
Well, a lot of those schools survive on that money for their athletic department.
Yes.
I mean, that's
what happens there.
FAMU is going to come down to Miami and get $800,000. That's going to go a long way, not only for the football program, but for some of the other athletic programs that they have. So,
well, with the riches that are there, I mean, and being attained, these schools are all getting together, and all of this realignment is taking place for one simple reason, and that is money. you would think, I don't know. I mean, is there an organization that would be able to maybe mediate out a deal where, now that these schools don't get paid to get their ass kicked, that they just, share the wealth somehow enough so that they can sustain themselves?
Yeah,
Or is that
maybe
too logical to, to the people that are in power?
the TV money is going to be so great for those 3 or 4 conferences, however
Yeah.
it shakes out.
Shouldn't some of that trickle down and help out these, also rants?
They're still gonna be on TV at some point. They're still gonna have some kind of TV deal, because I think was it last week or 2 weeks ago, I read an article that there's going to be a football game just about every day for the next 2.5 months.
Yes,
or something on TV.
Jim Sarney, man, on top of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's okay with me. You know what?
Yeah.
It's nice, right? You're looking at your evening's itinerary, and you're flipping around between 3 or 4 games, and then one catches your interest more so than the others, and it's a lot of good free entertainment for those couch potatoes like me that are at home. Saying,
Me too.
yeah, no, you're everywhere, Johnny.
Me too.
You are everywhere. I can't believe it. How many hours now? Were you then like on a post game show on the radio yesterday? Also,
no, just on TV. But it went.
You and Mike Cunha were on till like 60 Minutes came on.
I know. We were hoping that 60 Minutes was going into 90 minutes and maybe move it up a little bit.
I thought I saw you being introduced by Scott Pelley. And John Congemi wraps up today's Dolphins game as 60 Minutes continues in a moment. All right, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. One more shout out to a great place. We will get Mayo down there. We have to hope. I mean, yesterday was National Grump Day, which people were implying was named for Mayo. So, we'll get him out of that mood. We'll make sure he's not in a mood when he gets down there. Because even if he was, the food is so euphoric. I'm still envisioning that Italian fisherman pizza. I don't mean to make it sound like that's the only thing. How did
my brother does that right? I don't know how he came up with it. It had to be in a drunken stupor one night. It was him and Larry. But however they invented it, it was a thing of beauty, and we need to go partake in that and some other fresh seafood or nachos with spicy chicken, and they have just about everything you can imagine. The best homemade pizzas, anywhere that I've had. They're on par down at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, and they do such a great job of entertaining and setting up the place that looks magnificent. And when you get there, you just kind of relax, have a drink, have something to eat, and watch your favorite sports teams, because there's plenty of stuff to do down there.
Yeah, I mean, you're not thinking about getting like some kind of yellowtail franchise at a place in the Keys that is going to be exquisite, and then at the same time getting this wide variety of really unbelievable custom pizzas, and it's one of those things where even if you're from New York, you're thinking, wow, this stuff is great.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Right? I mean, really, really good. Well done job by your brother and the staff there, and the lovely Amanda. I mean, they do a terrific job. Service is top notch too.
That's right, first class.
Yeah, not like you're trying to get a drink in the Bahamas, right? Where the guy looks at you for half an hour and
what do you want?
Then finally tells you they're closed. Oh, we're close, man. All right, Johnny, we love you, man. Great job. Tremendous, and TV appearances top notch. Unbelievable job.
Thanks, guys.
We'll look forward to talking to you again next week, my friend.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
John Congemi, ladies and gentlemen, the Pigskin Playbook.
Yes, sir.
All right, so what do we know, Lubie? Do we know anything? What do we know, and when did we know it?
The Dolphins are a lot of fun. Look, that's a good problem to have, that your offense is too electrifying that you're scared to slow down.
I don't necessarily. I understand the principle.
Well, struggles against good teams. People who hate on the Dolphins will bring up that the record against good teams is not good. Because what happens is when you become dependent on the big play, you see what. Look, the Patriots almost beat them, and the Patriots suck. But they're like, look, we don't care if you move the ball. They do the prevent kind of a thing, and you would think that's easy for a team like the Dolphins. But when you're so used to chucking it down the field, you get very anxious and antsy. Instead of just, all right, fuck it, we'll take 5 yards here and there, we'll take 10 yards. So that's the thing, is it's been sort of a knock on McDaniel, and it's been proven true. Every time they play someone that takes away the deep ball, they struggle on offense. So it's not a negative right now that they're looking great on offense, but you do have to be able to march down the field, because the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Bills are not going to let you get 5 plays of 50-plus yards. That's not going to happen against a defense like that.
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, Tyreek Hill looks like he could make it happen almost any time. And a guy gets 6 catches yesterday and ends up with 163 yards. Again, right over the top. You're asking yourself, it's often the question, you see when you get a guy beats you on a Hail Mary or something. How did they let him get behind him? But, you can't always account for everything. In this case, though, whenever Tua sees any kind of one-on-one coverage out there on Hill, he's going ahead and making an audible call at the line of scrimmage and saying, "Hey, fly pattern, go." I mean, it's like being in the schoolyard, which is great. I don't mind it. I mean, I understand you have to be able to, sometimes, other teams that are really good, they can, get you into an uglier game.
Yes.
And force you to do some things that you're uncomfortable with. I mean, that would be the key to any good defense, would it not? That was big key to Belichick's success over the years, even though everybody wants to totally dismiss all of his accomplishments, and give them all now to Tom Brady. I still don't feel that's fair. Do you, Lubie? With Belichick as a coach, I mean, I would take Belichick to coach a team pretty much any time. Against any other coach in the league. In fact, I would trust him more than McDaniel, by a long margin at this stage in terms of just winning a game, and being able to be influential on the outcome from a coaching standpoint. But I mean, he has no players.
Well, but that's
pointed out to us, and that's his fault, I guess. But
yes.
That's the old cliche, right? So and so the coach is being let down by so and so, the same guy GM.
Yes, and that's the thing is, look, first of all, to me, it's hard to mention Belichick without mentioning the cheating. Like, they got popped enough where there's a reason he was doing all of it, and that's fine. Obviously, he's a great coach. Obviously,
I think he didn't need the cheating; he just couldn't stand it. He was like Worm in the Rounders movie.
Well, they don't do, but I mean, come on, he did it. Like, whatever reason he did it, and like Trump probably could have won the election if he hadn't gotten fucking annoying at the end. Yeah, he probably would have, and then he got annoying. Like Belichick did it for whatever reason. Richard Nixon was gonna win, and he couldn't help himself. Like a cheater's a cheater.
Well, he did win, yeah. Then he got caught later on.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and he didn't need to cheat. He won anyways, but. Yeah. Again, Belichick's, that's his thing. I'm not going to give him a pass because he didn't need to. That's his fault.
I mean, I don't think that it's fair to say that he can't. He wasn't a great coach.
No, I think he's a great coach.
It was all Tom Brady. I mean,
no. I think he's a great coach. I think Brady's a great quarterback. I think they made a great tandem, and I think the difference was Brady was willing to go somewhere else and be a little bit more open, and Belichick's not. Belichick's not willing to let someone else come in and help him get the talent and move to the next phase. That's what he was always great at.
He was terrific at personnel management for the longest period of time.
Well, he was also great at understanding that you can't play football the same in the 80s. That football evolves, sports evolves, and he was great at evolving with it. And he sort of is now turned into old man that can't evolve. And when it comes to personnel, not how you coach, he's actually coaching up guys. He still's good at that. He needs someone to help him spot talent. He's fucking old, and he won't do it. So it's his own problem.
Speaking of Syracuse, senile old Ben Schwartzwalder on the sidelines saying, "Let's run the ball. We'll run it right down their throats." How many times can a coach run the ball up the middle and get stuffed before he realizes that it might be, a wise maneuver to try something different? That was old school, wasn't it? Belichick may be like we were with the Morning Drive radio show, clinging to an old concept. What do you think?
Well, the fact that he thinks he can do everything. Like, you can't do everything. It's what screwed LeBron his whole career. I understand you want to be involved in the decisions, but do you really want to make them? Like, that's a lot. Like, you should be able to.
Yeah, I mean, in certain circumstances, you would. Sure. I would think that if you were a player of LeBron's caliber, you'd rather be making the decisions than some of the guys that they put in charge of that. Although, with the Miami Heat, I don't know, they've made their share of mistakes, but that in general, you would have to say they've been pretty shrewd over the years under Pat Riley.
And that's the thing. The best is to find a partnership where your input matters, but you can also trust the other person. And that's what Brady and Belichick had seemingly for so long. And that's what the great partnerships have. And I think this taking it all on yourself, eventually the weight is going to get to you.
And the cyclical nature of sports also.
Yes,
I mean, eventually, the team somehow finds itself, relatively bereft of talent, even though maybe their plans weren't as disastrous, ideally on paper, but for whatever reason, this is the way it went. And, it's a shambles, unfortunately, for Belichick, who still hung in there. The Raiders, I don't think that, did he ever score more than 20 points in a ball game? They had 21, right? Last night, 21-17 was the final.
Yes, that was the score. Yeah.
They can't score, right? Jimmy Garoppolo, is he not the most overrated quarterback in the history of the National Football League? Jimmy Garoppolo.
A lot. He's up there. McDaniels is a horrendous coach, and I don't understand why certain guys get. He almost got the Colts job, and then remember he turned it down because he thought he'd be the Patriots. And Belichick's never retiring, so he finally took the Raiders job. It's like, it's clear he's not good at coaching. Like, why would?
Yeah, you would think he would do better. I mean, he hasn't been very successful, and
horrible
offense was his game, right?
Yes.
I mean, the other thing about Belichick, just to kind of finish that thought. I mean, when Brady was injured, Belichick managed to scramble together with a bunch of real scrub quarterbacks, and still he actually made some guys look like they were really, really good, right?
Yes,
because he had a couple of guys
not Castle.
He had other guys that ended up being starters in the league, but weren't overwhelmingly talented. But he managed to win with them.
Yes, right? Hoyer. He was the first of the Hoyer before Hoyer went in. Was the backup for everyone. He was the backup in New England for a long time.
Yeah, and I'm blanking on the name. Black quarterback who
Jacoby Brissett, who went to the Dolphins.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
He was winning with this guy, right?
They had a nice year. The year
so I mean, so it can't be that he couldn't coach. I mean, or that it was all Tom Brady.
You can't do everything. Like, yes, there's nothing wrong with being involved. Again, Parcells wanted to do the groceries. That's fine. But you need to have a staff that you trust. And it feels like years ago he did with Pioli and whatever. And then the last few years, it's like he become an old man that's in the corner by himself. Like he held that. Remember when they did COVID, he was holding the draft? Like, why? Yeah. Is he holding, like, where's everyone else? They never showed a war room. They showed him in his fucking office with his dog.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's like.
It seemed very cool at the time until you realize that he didn't.
Weird. It's like even in COVID, all these other teams had war rooms set up, and then they showed the Patriots, and it's Belichick hunkered down in a goddamn basement office with his dog
by himself. Yeah.
It's like, okay.
You're thinking pretty soon he's going to get up, look in the mirror, and say, "You talking to me?"
Yeah, it's like,
you're talking to me. I mean, Travis freaking Bickle. This guy looked like. You're right. Guy got a little bit strange. That's unfortunate. All right, we have to do this now, Lubie. I think it's time for the celebration.
Oh, okay.
And it was lost on me, even though you mentioned it several times.
Isn't it Friday? Because I know people get weird when they don't know.
Yeah.
How do you tell people?
But happy birthday to you. And everybody can join me here on the chat line. I mean, sing along there. We'll have a little caption up there on the bottom, like it was the old Mitch Miller show, with a little bouncing ball. Follow the bouncing ball, right? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lubie. Happy birthday to you. Way to go, kid.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
You made it, man. Is this a big fat round number? This one?
That was last year. We're on 4-1 now.
Oh wow! Okay. Yes, my son.
Yeah, I'm old.
Very good. How do you feel? Any special plans or anything?
We did a lot this weekend. Saturday night we went out with friends. Yesterday we had my family come over.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we celebrated the weekend. The weekdays are tough. Shirley works like a mad person, and we're busy all fucking day. So. It was
nice.
It's good. You know, I like that. I like low key. I don't need a whole lot. Like, you know, I just like.
Yeah, I just as soon forget about my birthdays. Now. I mean, not only that, but after betting all those 5-7-7-5s, I mean, as I often told my mother, "Hey, Ma, couldn't I have been born on a different day? If it had been like June 5th, the 17th, anything." But this number, just how much money it's cost me in my lifetime, I don't even want to fathom. I guess, Lubie.
I would. The fact that Andy because he does it online, it keeps track for him is the most psychotic thing ever.
Oh Christ! Yeah, no, that's a big mistake. Yeah, it's like, is it favorable? The public scale? Do they calibrate that like 10 pounds lighter, so you'll go in there and buy a lot of shit, thinking, "Oh, good, I can eat."
Yeah, I think so. I know it's not true. I don't know if it's more or less, but it's not right. It's never right. It's way
Never
off.
right. I mean, I don't know. I hesitate to get on that scale because I don't want to bust the illusion that I'm doing okay. You know what I mean? Because I have a scale that you can move in different parts of the house and get like completely different readings. So I find the most favorable reading, and that's where I'm at. Because it'll be the same weight there, no matter what, even if it's 10 pounds lighter than if I weighed myself, on a flatter, surface. I don't know, Louis. Don't get to that point. At 41, you're still not there yet.
No, I don't.
You're in relatively good shape, though, considering all of that.
I mean,
food
I
you
walk
take out.
my dog fucking 5 times a day. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah. How far does he go, man? Probably a long way.
do at least a half a mile almost each walk. I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm doing your 4 or 5 miles, but I'm also active throughout the day, so that's also good. I don't every hour to 2 hours I have to walk him where he eats our house.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that'll keep you going.
Yeah.
Between that and cleaning the pool in the heat.
Yeah.
Although it's supposed to cool down here in South
And
Florida.
actually, this morning, I don't know if you've been outside. This morning felt different. I don't know. If
I stepped outside for a second to get the newspaper. It was under the cover of darkness.
Yeah.
And, no, it did. It felt a lot better. You started to kind of get a little bit of this yesterday in the afternoon.
Yes.
And then, I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, when I first came to Florida, I want to believe it was like for a Thanksgiving vacation. And, we had like whatever, the Thanksgiving break there from whatever school I was in. I think it was in high school. And I came down here my senior year in high school with a bunch of guys. We stayed at the Surf Comer Hotel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was a dump, Lubie. I mean, we had like 8 guys in one little room there. And I remember, and it was like a certain feeling you got when you had that kind of fall South Florida sun. This was before global warming amped everything up like
Usually it's cold in like
20
September.
degrees.
Oh, yeah. The weather was different here. Like
Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, and it left an indelible impression because, you're thinking, fuck, I want more of that, Never mind New York City. I couldn't never made it. Louis, being in New York my entire life, as much as I.
Now we've awesome. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. We're going to work on Defo's technical fun. And coming up next, we will have the one and only Brett Tessler, the agent to the stars. This is the Defo Show. We soon will have Defo again. More after this.
Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
the simple pleasures of this job, the way a stadium sounds when one of my players performs well on the field, the way we are meant to protect them in health and in injury. Less work, more attention, caring for them, caring for ourselves in the games too.
The agent to the stars, the one and only Brett Tessler.
All right, we always love this when it happens because we've been having Brett Tessler on as a featured guest. It seems like, the entire time that I've known you, Mike Lubitz, and maybe prior to that as well.
You came in knowing him. So I know from the day one we've been having Tessler on our shows.
And this is one of my favorite sports stories, as we mentioned earlier. I love this kind of shit. But when you have a guy like this that persevered through all kinds of bizarre, injuries and being cut 7 times, and Brett Tessler and Raheem. I mean, it's very much the Jerry Maguire story. I'm wondering, Brett, has Cuba Gooding Jr. talked to you about playing Raheem? We welcome Brett Tessler, the agent to the stars, to the program. That's a great story. I mean, the guy looks better than ever. It's amazing.
It really is one of the most remarkable stories maybe in the history of the sport. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. I mean,
no.
When people talk about underdog stories or stories of perseverance, obviously everyone's very familiar with Kurt Warner and his story. And when you look at Raheem and you look at it, it goes back to even before his NFL career, even in college. He overcame a lot of trials and tribulations there. Didn't really get the opportunity that he obviously deserved, and came into this league as an undrafted player who was invited to no all-star games, no combine, no nothing. Got cut 7 times prior to finally sticking in San Francisco. And then even once he got there, it took a few years to get an opportunity to emerge as a running back. And then in a year or so, the guy is the NFC Championship game MVP. That pretty much single-handedly, I shouldn't say single-handedly, but he was a major, major part of the reason why that team ended up going to the Super Bowl, where he proceeded to go on and score a touchdown. And now here he is a few years after that in his early 30s. And, one of the greatest yards per carry running backs in the history of the sport. So if you want, we can stay on for a couple more hours.
I know it's amazing. Yeah.
He jumped over a human being yesterday mid-stride and kept running. He did like some Barry Sanders type stuff, and he's 31. Like, that was freaking ridiculous.
Yeah, he's not human, and nobody's supposed to be able to do the things he does from a speed, explosiveness, power, athleticism standpoint at the age of 21, let alone 31. So there's just certain players in this league where age is truly just a number, and he's obviously one of those guys. So, the guy is one of the top 5 running backs in the league today, one of the top couple players on the Dolphins team, and certainly a big, big part of the reason why we're seeing them have the success they're having.
And, I'm watching the post-game interviews. I caught a couple of them. John Congemi was on a post-game show there on CBS, so I'm watching it, and Raheem pops up. He's being interviewed by his locker. And you'd be able to speak to this. Knowing the way that he feels. And we always think of this as being like a corny aspect of covering sports, but it does seem like that there's a lot of togetherness on this Miami Dolphin team, that the so-called team chemistry is just ripe with enthusiasm, and that Raheem seems like he genuinely enjoys playing with this particular group.
It's a very unique locker room, as you mentioned. Chemistry is a very real thing in this sport. There have been a lot of very talented teams that throughout the years have had sort of more selfish individual type players, and in the end it really can and often will catch up to a team, whether it's the postseason, even the Super Bowl itself. Once you get to that point, every team has talent. It's just a matter of who really clicks as a unit, who really supports one another and picks each other up when things get tough. And that's where, once again, guys like Raheem are equally as important in the locker room as they are on the field. Because trust me, I know this guy better than anybody. Whether he scores 3 or 4 touchdowns a game, as we've seen him do multiple times this season already, or whether Ashan has his day, or Tyreek has his day, or the third, fourth string running back does something good, or someone on defense does something good, Raheem's always going to be the first guy there to congratulate them. And guys like him are truly hard to find, because he really, at the end of the day, would sacrifice any personal accolade to help his team win.
Nick Bonacani, Shula, they were hoisting a few in heaven yesterday, the usual tribute, as the 2 remaining undefeated teams went down in surprising fashion. San Francisco losing to the Cleveland Browns, who I believe we were trying to research this. I think Milt Plum was actually the backup quarterback on the sidelines there. I mean, they're without Deshaun Watson, which may be a benefit. Somehow they beat San Francisco straight up. And then the Philadelphia Eagles went down. So, as you look at the Dolphins at 5-1, Eagles, obviously Kansas City has to be considered, but they don't appear, Brett, to be nearly as explosive as they've been in the past and have been in some really tight ball games. The Bills staggering against the Giants yesterday was a bit of a surprise to many people who had a lot of money riding on the Bills covering the 15 points. But, where do the Dolphins rank, in your opinion? Are they possibly, or do they deserve consideration as being the overall best team in the league right now?
The argument could be made now that, again, there's no other teams that are undefeated. You yourself just mentioned the top 4 or 5 best teams in the league. I guess you'd still say the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
You would have Kansas City. You would have the Dolphins. You would have the Eagles, the 49ers, and probably, a team like the Bills. Still nobody, I think, wants to fall asleep on. So, yeah, and, Dallas is sort of hanging around that area. So, if you've got the top 5 or so top teams in the league, how could you not put the Dolphins in that category? And it's just going to be interesting to see what happens as the season goes on, to see who certain teams lose, because Buffalo losing a Matt Milano last week,
huge.
That is a massive, massive blow. And equally so, when you talk about the Dolphins getting Jalen Ramsey back on the field, wow. I mean, talk about the rich getting richer. And so, you saw what they did yesterday with Mostert and Hill. And then, in a month or so, you'll have Ashan back, and you'll have Jeff Wilson contributing wherever he can. And again, it's just a case of the rich getting richer. And it's just a matter of who has good fortune throughout the remaining, 11 or 12 weeks of the season. And, we'll see who stays healthy, and we'll see who is peaking at the right time. But, based on what you're seeing from this team, there's no indication that this offense is going to be slowing down anytime soon.
In this business, Brent, we love bonehead coaching moves. It gives us material, that we can reference in perpetuity. We had the Mario Cristobal thing with the University of Miami failing to take a knee and let the clock expire, instead fumbling the football and losing a ball game, and killing momentum of what was, a somewhat promising looking season before that particular blunder. Brian Daboll, I don't know if you caught this last night. Were you watching the Monday night game by any chance, right near halftime? As the Giants end up getting stuffed on a running play at the goal line with no timeouts left and 12 seconds on the clock. I mean, they always start screaming, the one thing you can't do is take a sack here. And the other thing would be you can't have, a running play call where you're not going to get off another play unless it goes into the end zone. What did you think about how does that happen? I mean, Dayball's he's on the headset. Did his mic not work to negate the play? Or do you think that was just an audible call at the line of scrimmage by Tyrod Taylor? Would he, be authoritative enough to overrule whatever else was called and run a bonehead, play that backfired? How does that happen in the chain of communication where the head coach, he seemed to be unaware that that was going to be the play?
I think it was a miscommunication, and obviously head coaches have a lot to deal with in the course of a game, and that's why they have an offensive and a defensive coordinator. And offensive and defensive coordinators have a lot to deal with in their respective responsibilities. That's why they have defensive line coaches, secondary coaches, offensive line coaches, quarterback coaches, so on and so forth. So it's basically a chain of command. And if you're the boss, you have to assume that the people right under you are capable of doing their jobs at a competent level. And clearly what we saw last night, that wasn't the case. And you pretty much saw Dayball eyes.
You look like Roberto Duran after the first fight with Sugar Ray Leonard, running around the ring there like a maniac.
Honestly, I really thought that guy was going to take a heart attack. I mean, it's really funny, but it isn't.
Yeah,
because
I thought he was going to have a seizure too. You're right.
A guy like this is so intense and so serious. And frankly, I think he does his job at such a high level that people like that have pretty much no tolerance for people who can't. And so if somebody, with a few seconds left in that situation with no timeouts, and the understanding that at worst, you've got to come away with a field goal. Yeah. Really, there was enough time to take 2 shots to the end zone and then kick the field goal if necessary. Yep. And so
how could this happen?
This is something that, I would say that you won't see that happen again there. And if you do, I'd say that a certain coordinator or someone like that may be happy to look for work at some point, because again, at the end of the day, forget about what an NFL coach should know. This is something that I think most high school coaches would know. I think most Pee Wee League coaches would know. And, certainly Tyrod Taylor, a 13-year veteran himself, he should know it too. And so I think ultimately what happened is the coach called in a run pass option. I think Tyrod Taylor mistook that as, an opportunity to option out of the pass and, call an audible to run. It was supposed to probably be a fake handoff or a situation where you could potentially option it or, quarterback, whatever the case is. What happened there was clearly the last thing that you could allow happen. And frankly, as evidenced by the result, it ended up costing them that game. Yeah. And wins in this league are hard enough to come by when you do everything right. And again, this isn't baseball where there's 162 of these. I mean, every single one of these games are crucial, especially if you're the New York Giants, a team that I think people had higher expectations for. There's no two ways to say it. The season's been a big disappointment for them. And with a loss last night against a great opponent in Buffalo, it really is a major blow to the Giants in many ways. First and foremost, from a record standpoint and a trying to make the postseason standpoint. But this is the kind of win where not only would it have, again, helped the cause to try to get to the postseason, but beating a team like the Bills in prime time would have been a tremendous confidence builder, really could help a team like this maybe sort of turn the corner. But to lose a game under those circumstances, Brian Daboll has every right to feel the way he does, and knowing how hard a guy like him works, you have to feel for him.
Look, and we love talking to you because you've been around this league in a way we just don't get the intimacy. I mean, you've been with the players, coaches, execs for over 20 years. You get to see the league in a way we don't. We do the intangible crap talk, and then you get to see it in front of your face. So like the expression of me playing down your competition, I never understood it. Like, and I get it must happen, but I never got it. But you saw it this weekend. The Chiefs against a bad Browns team without their starting quarterback. The Eagles against a Jets team that is really good defensively without their possible best defensive player and without their quarterback. You then have the Bills struggling with the Giants. They won, but it didn't feel like a win if you're a Bills fan. Like, you've been around the league a long time. Why does that happen? Like, it's so confusing to me to see those three teams who are clearly better than their competition. And I get it any given Sunday, but come on. Like when you're a double-digit favorite, like to play like that, like the Chiefs and the Eagles especially looked so bad in those games and so inept. Like it's so confusing to me to see such talent advantage almost wasted in games like that.
So here's one thing that the Browns and the Jets have in common. They have dominant defenses.
Yeah, the defenses.
And they have the ability to overpower offensive lines. And if you can get to the quarterback, I don't care who that quarterback is, whether it's Jalen Hurts, whether it's Brock Purdy, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, whether it's Tom Brady, whether it's Sid Luckman.
You threw Luckman in there? Nice job there, Brett.
I like the Luckman throwing. Nice.
If you're able to pester a team's quarterback and get them under duress and punish them a little bit and just kind of get things going that way, where, again, the way the Jets won this game is with pick sixes and crucial interceptions. This is what a dominant defensive line can do. And the Jets and the Browns are two of the more dominant ones you'll see in the league. I mean, this Browns defense is historically good.
Yeah, it's great.
And so basically what you're looking for from Zach Wilson and whoever the quarterback was for the Browns, the name escapes me. And, you know, what you're looking for from those guys is don't screw it up. Just give your defense a chance. Give your running game a chance. Complete a pass when you need to, but don't throw the game-changing mistake. And so both of those quarterbacks did enough to get the job done, and the rest of their team answered. And I guess it shows that maybe the Eagles and the 49ers, as great as they've looked, and I do believe they are great, maybe they're not perfect. And in the case of a guy like Brock Purdy, it's wonderful that everybody's ready to anoint him as the next Dan Marino, the next Joe Montana, the next Peyton Manning, the next Aaron Rodgers, the next Brett Favre, so on and so forth. The reality is this: there's a reason why this guy was the last pick in the draft, and that's not to take anything away from the things he does well or the success he's had. He's won big, and frankly, I would have no problem envisioning him being able to take that team all the way. And so he's a good player, and he does exactly what Kyle Shanahan needs him to do in that offense. But on the other hand, if you read any scouting report on the guy, there are limitations.
He's limited.
I mean, this is not a guy who can make that throw that you saw Josh Allen made yesterday, or some of the throws you would see a Patrick Mahomes make, where a quarterback could just single-handedly take the team on their shoulders and win them a game. I don't know that Brock Purdy is that guy, but good news for him is he doesn't need to be that guy. He needs to do his job. Yesterday was probably one of the biggest challenges you've seen him have. And once other teams in the league see how another team succeeds against these teams, to a degree, it gives them a little bit of a blueprint. And so we'll see whether other teams try to compete with those teams as the season goes on, the same way the Jets competed with the Eagles and the way that the Browns competed with the 49ers. But I'll tell you, those were two great games, and I represent one of the captains on the Browns who's been there longer than anybody. And he said it's the most exciting game he's been a part of since he's been there. So it was a great day of football as a fan, just a lot of compelling games, upsets. Again, as a fan, everything you could ask for.
No doubt, man. I mean, wild entertainment wraps up tonight as the Cowboys will be in action against the LA Chargers, right? So pretty good matchup there. And we'll see if Dak Prescott can revive, thoughts that he is a good quarterback after a couple of disastrous results. Brett, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for sharing Lubie's birthday with us as Lubie celebrates yet another big number on the board. And always appreciate you coming on the show. Congratulations. Please pass our sentiments along to Raheem Mostert, who is now Mr. Endzone, right? I mean, does he lead the league in touchdowns?
He does.
Wow.
He leads the league in touchdowns. He's on a record-setting pace for the all-time record for touchdowns in a season. So,
do you call Chris Greer every now and then and remind him that, hey, I told you this guy was good?
Yeah, those conversations will continue. But to what you were saying before, definitely a happy birthday to Lubie. And just so you know, Deef, I didn't need you to mention it. I remembered it. I was going to mention it.
Oh, okay, cool.
I would never forget Lubie's birthday. He's a wonderful guy. And, there's some people on the radio or on TV that listeners or fans or people like that have a certain impression in terms of, their relatability, their likability, their character. And sometimes when you meet these people in person, they're nothing like you kind of feel like you get to know. Yeah. In the case of Lubie, what you see is what you get. Just a great guy.
I'm afraid that might have been considered an unflattering remark.
No, Lubie's a great guy and a good friend, and it's really been a pleasure working with you guys all these years. And happy birthday, Lubie!
Thanks.
Yeah, I had forgotten about his birthday completely. Until people started alluding to it on the chat line there. Thanks, Brett. Always a pleasure, my friend. Brett Tessler, the agent of the Stars. See, he didn't forget your birthday. I you know what? You told me about this on Friday, right?
Yeah, I just threw it in. Well, I threw it in Friday because of something was happening over the weekend.
Oh,
so
yeah. Well, unfortunately, that never transpired with circumstances playing out the way they did. Although I did have a very interesting weekend and a meeting yesterday that was quite enlightening. So we'll see what happens on the horizon here. All right, we have to run. Thanks so much. Peel yourself off to Matt Monday. I thought it was a lot of fun today. John Congemi, great as always. And a very interesting weekend of football all the way around. And more to come tonight with this. Who do you like in the Dallas? Dallas, I think, is favored by 1.5 in this game. Are they not on the road against the Chargers in this ball game? I mean, would you trust the Cowboys after last week?
I don't trust either of those two teams. That's the problem. I think the Chargers have as much talent as Keenan Allen, I think, is hurt again. Mike Williams, I think, is hurt.
They're on the road.
So that's what hurts the Chargers. The Chargers are at home, but the problem is Mike Williams, I think, is out. If not, I think he's out the year now.
Yeah, I believe that might be right.
And Keenan Allen's always hurt, so that's the thing for them. And their defense has a lot of stars, but as a defense, it sort of underwhelms.
Yeah,
and their coach is a joke. But McCarthy's a joke too. So
how does he keep his job, man? I mean, Aaron Rodgers might have had a point. No, he got rid of him.
Oh, yeah. Well, for sure. Jerry Jones is weirdly loyal for as much of a douchebag as he is.
Well, Jerry, I mean, it's the I'm your puppet syndrome, I think, more with Jerry.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't want anybody that's going to fire back at him and say, hey, listen, Jerry, stay out of my business. Can you imagine Jerry Jones with Belichick?
Oh, Jesus.
Do you think Bobby Kraft ever makes any player suggestions or says to Bill, hey, Bill, you know what? I think you might have been blowing it in the GM's office there all of this time.
I think you're blowing it. Yeah, right. Good luck.
That's when Belichick unveils the pictures of various Asian spas throughout the north side of Beantown there. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks so much. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Yes.
And later on the day, we'll have Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. And Mayo all excited about, not today so much, but tomorrow.
Yes.
When we're going to be somewhere, in Davie Plantation?
Luke's Seafood. I think it's Luke's Seafood.
Where's it at?
It's not Plantation. It's a fucking hike because everywhere Mayo sends us is a hike. It's Sterling and University. It's not Plantation.
Sterling and University. Okay. It's a hike, man. It's a schlep.
Luke's Seafood's Luke. I already forgot the name of the damn place. It's Luke something.
Yeah.
In the, I guess, Davie Cooper City area.
Okay. Well, I mean, and it's supposed to be great. I've seen nothing but positive reviews of the place. And Mayo managed to convince the guy to put out a platter of stone crabs. So, and that's the first of it for the season. So we'll be there tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, as usual.
Remember, 1 o'clock. No, remember.
Oh, 1 o'clock. That's right. We start at 1 o'clock today.
Because of us, even though now our thing's in a stall. I had good conversations in regard to that, too. So that'll start in the next couple.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's happening. That's still going.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you after the show since.
Okay. All right.
Before.
Sounds good.
Luke's Seafood and Grill is Tuesday. Stone crab season is upon us. It started yesterday, so it's here.
Yeah.
And Mayo made sure the first week to take 2 different places to throw stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no better stone crab than a free stone crab. In my opinion, then they're an absolute delight. I mean, Florida delicacy that is very unique to this area, right? I mean, every governor bet or every mayor bet
stone crab
should be stone crabs versus whatever crap you have to put up.
It is.
Right?
It's
I
always
mean, okay, maybe stone crabs versus the Maine lobster would be interesting.
That's
With maybe in New England. Oh no, New England would be more what? I mean, clam chowder.
I think they do lobster. I don't know if they do clam chowder.
Lobster's big in Boston area for sure.
That's where the
All
lobster.
right.
Today at 1 o'clock.
Half the people look like a lobster.
They do.
They either look like Whitey Bulger or Mickey Ward. That's it, right? I that was my observation there, and I'll stick to that. Funny that you ran into either looked like Mickey Ward, the fighter. That was it. All right, we have to run. Thanks everybody for tuning in, putting up with our bullshit today. I don't know that we were overly acute in any of our analysis, Lubie. And the Rangers got off to a good start, beating. We didn't even mention it, the baseball game last night. I watched a pretty good portion.
Oh, by
of that.
the way, in Marlins fashion, Kim Ng sucks for 2 years. Finally, is good as a GM.
Yeah.
We actually give her credit. She makes moves in season that work out. They get to the playoffs.
Don't tell me they fired her.
Kim Ng. No, I don't think they fired her. I think she's
leaving.
Wow.
What
the fuck is doing? She had a mutual option for next year.
And refused it.
Now, why would they not have extended her? So that it probably is very much Jeter-esque, where she wanted it and they wouldn't give it to her because Bruce Sherman sucks. The Marlins and Kim Ng, who should win Executive of the Year, have parted ways, and it didn't seem mutual.
Wow.
Just parted ways. She had, and that's why I was quiet a lot during tests because I was trying to find fucking information on it, and they just have the same blurb. She declined her mutual option.
She wants out. She'd rather not be here than be the only female GM in North American sports.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to find someone baseball.
And she did a great job. I mean, you would have to credit her with a lot of what happened this year in terms of success, right?
Yeah, she made the.
Was it her idea to bring in the Schumacher man? I mean, that would have to be something that she had some influence in.
Yeah, she brought him in.
And the trades at the deadline were absolutely incredible in terms of, you're looking at two guys that are hitting like 226. I don't care if they had some, and Bell didn't even really have that many home runs. I think he had only like 11 home runs when he came to the Marlins, and he hit like 9 or 10 as a Marlin, or maybe more. And then this Berger was just a solid contributor. Wow, I mean, those two guys made all the difference in the stretch run there.
She made the Arise trade, which is exactly what they needed to that spark their first half.
Spark the offense. He ended up hitting 350. No disgrace there. I mean,
I was tough on her going into this year. I openly admit it.
Yeah.
She was really good as a GM, and I'm actually fucking frustrated. Like it came up.
It's like they let Branch Rickey walk out the door.
It's just weird. It's like so Marlins. Like every time you find someone who's interesting, Joe Girardi was really good as a skipper.
Yeah.
Of course, he's gone. Like it's just really annoying. Even with new owners, it doesn't matter. Like they never understand what the fuck they're doing.
All right. We have to run. We have stuff to do here, Mike Lubie. So it's 1 o'clock now. I'm glad you reminded me, man. I would have gotten up at 12 and been sitting there going, where the fuck is Mayo? Yeah. All right. So we'll see you guys later on. 1 o'clock with Mike Mayo's Lunchbox as we leave you to know that.
The time.
None other things happening, huh? That's good. Are you excited about it? No?
To get things working.
Yeah, more work and no money. It's 9:44.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done